All right, rock and roll. Welcome to the Valentine's Day edition of the Scorched Earth podcast for February 14th, 2025. All right, welcome back. And please, if you could, if you have an inkling that you like this, hit the subscribe or like button. Leave some comments. I always like to know what you're thinking, what kind of areas you want me to talk about on the political front. And I'm in Las Vegas, my last day here, and it rained. And boy, this city does not do well with rain. I guess that's why it's in the desert. It rains 5-6 days a year, if that, and it just floods. Just something terrible. It's almost like you got to build an ark. And I was coming through the hotel tonight, and I saw these people with these really nice coats, cashmere, ankle length, just really, really nice pieces of clothing. And I thought to myself, I used to live on the East Coast, that's one nice thing about living in the East Coast is you get to have really cool clothes. You got long coats, you got long sweaters. Out here on the West Coast, I mean, we think it's a blizzard when it's 65. We don't really have that kind of clothes. Like, I used to have overcoats and stuff like that when I lived on the East Coast. And on the West Coast, it's like, oh, well, I guess I'll get a windbreaker. It's like you tell somebody, hey, I think we need to get a coat. And they look at you befuddled like, what the heck is that? It's, it's an extra layer of protection over your shirt. I'm going to have to look in there. Let me Google that. So I'm here with my folks, and here's another thing about the West Coast, in and out. And we went to a city in Arizona, Bullhead City, to go see my niece. And she's a young lady, just really nice, really, really, really nice person. And my parents always loved seeing her. Brought some Christmas gifts, brought birthday gifts, just the whole, really a pleasant experience. And the reason I bring it up is my niece lives in Arizona, and I know everybody has heard these stories, but for some reason I think that we forget these things in today's political climate. That about a year and a half ago, my niece got pregnant. And because of some complications, maybe some errors by medical staff, whatever, the baby miscarried. And I believe she was in the 3rd or 4th month. And it's obviously an incredibly traumatic thing. I think we take for granted the gift of birth and that what these women, what happens to their body and how an amazing thing life can be and how incredibly precious it is for them to be able to carry a baby to 9 months. And unfortunately, sometimes they can. That was my niece. And because she lives in a state, Arizona, with incredibly restrictive reproductive rights, she was faced with an incredible dilemma. And that dilemma was she had to have the dead fetus inside her removed, but Arizona wouldn't allow it. And it threatened her life. And I think most medical professionals told her she had to get the body of the fetus out of her within 5 to 7 days. So she had to go to Colorado, find a medical facility there, and have the baby removed. And fortunately for her, she did have the financial wherewithal to do that. I wonder what happens to all the women whose only crime is not having money. And when they deal with complications in pregnancy, the complications to their own life as they carry a baby to birth or to term, or like in my niece's case, a miscarriage. And it is amazing. I've always been fascinated by the right wing and them saying, well, it's a life. It's a life. Life starts at conception. All right. Then how come we don't have funerals when there's miscarriages? Doesn't seem, I was a Catholic altar boy for 10 years. And I don't remember ever, and I know for a fact it never happened, we had a funeral for a fetus. Never happened. I don't even know if the Catholic Church has them now. Probably they do because they're getting on the other side of it because, let's make no mistake, there's a lot of money in that too. Oh, there's me and my anti-Catholic thing for the day. But I was talking to my niece today, and we were talking about that issue. And she said, as traumatic as that was, it was just exacerbated because medical professionals, basically people who are dedicated to helping human beings, put their hands up and go, we are handcuffed. We can't do anything, or we could face criminal liability. And, you know, we all know a woman, and it is amazing to me that we live in an era where women just don't have control over their bodies. And we have a right wing that sits there and says life is all that matters, except when it comes to the death penalty, except when it comes to sending these kids to war. You know? Oh, yeah, that's okay. That's good. Good. We got you on that one. You know, but a woman can't decide what to do with her own body. You know, I'm sure these are the same people who decide when, you know, what a woman can do with their body are the same ones who are pushing for pro-vaccine. Oh, wait, no, no, that would be a little too consistent for the right wing, right? And off we go tonight. We're not going to take any hostages tonight. We're going to burn it all to the ground, okay? Because I got a little, I'm still a little peeved, I'll just say pissed off about hearing what my niece had to go through again. And, you know, everybody on the right says, oh, yeah, that's unfortunate. You know what? You know, let me explain something. When something's unfortunate, you effing fix it. You don't just sit there and go, oh, yeah, okay. What happened after 9/11? Did we say, oh, it's unfortunate? Some Arabs got on a plane and crashed into a building. Okay, hope it doesn't happen again. No. They launched the most expensive war in history, and all we got out of that was the Taliban, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. Yeah, that was great. Thank you, George Bush. Thank you, Dick Cheney, for destroying two countries, for spending more money than we could ever use to have health care in this country. Like I said, the first year in the Iraq War, we could have paid for health care for every American for 50 years. 50 years. So when they tell you we don't have the money for health care, it's all bull. It's BS on BS. And let me tell you why they don't want universal health care. Because it allows your employer to control you. You know, I've seen studies where people, when they lose their job, the first thing they're worried about is their medical insurance. Well, if your medical insurance is that fickle, you're not going to leave the job even if you hate it. That's the thing. There's no portability, you know, and like I said the other day, a fan of the show was talking about the Canadians want to become the 51st state. And I go, yeah, wait till they find out about no health care. And she said, well, they know about it. I said, no, it's like a kid. He understands the concept of rent until he moves out. And then he actually has to pay rent. That whole thing. Then all of a sudden the world becomes a little more realistic. And let me tell you, those Canadians have no effing clue what healthcare is about. They don't. They don't understand. You know, they talk about, oh, we got to wait. We got to wait for appointments. Hey, welcome to America. Let me tell you something. We got this really cool thing called an HMO. And all they do, you don't even have to wait. They just tell you no. Oh, yeah, you're going to have to get a referral. Oh, sorry, no. United Healthcare. Why do you think that we whacked that guy on the street of Manhattan? Yeah. All right. Here we go. I'm in a mood today. You guys better lock and load on this one. So, the top federal prosecutor in New York and two senior Justice Department officials, this according to CNN, resigned after refusing an order from the DOJ to drop the corruption case against New York City Mayor Eric Adams. And this dude, even in New York, this dude's a gangster. Right? I mean, this dude's like a mini Donald Trump. And he has been placating Trump for the last 6 months. Stroking his ego, whatever. And the corruption charges are about, without getting too much into the weeds here, taking payments from foreign governments, from foreign consultants, people like that for contracts in New York, okay? That's just basically what it is. Look, it's New York City. If they ever get to the point where they're actually going to charge you with something, it's pretty serious, right? It is really, really serious. Well, it was for Trump when he got convicted of those 34 felonies, but I digress. So the acting U.S. attorney, Danielle Sassoon, rejected the directive from Emil Bove at the DOJ. After Sassoon's resignations, the case was reassigned to the DOJ's public integrity section. All right, I'm glad we still have one of those. I'm sure it'll be cut real quick here, where both acting chief John Keller and acting criminal division chief Ken Driscoll also resigned in protest. So obviously there was substantial evidence against Eric Adams. You know, it's kind of like what happened with the Mar-a-Lago, secret documents. Trump had them in the bathroom. He thought he could just have them forever. I mean, personally, I don't know what the statute of limitations is, and I understand Jack Smith did some pretty interesting things by withdrawing the case. I personally, if Trump was smart, and he is obviously as stupid as a doorknob, he would have his DOJ prosecute him on that case and lose, because then the case can't be relitigated. See, the case has been withdrawn by Jack Smith. I wonder, and I don't have any knowledge on what the statute of limitations is from withdrawing the federal lawsuit or charges, excuse me. It was criminal charges, felony charges for keeping the documents. The political witch hunt. Of course, this is the same DOJ who went after Bob Menendez and went after Hunter Biden. Democrats. All right. So now we see another way that Trump can get government employees to quit. Just quit prosecuting criminal activity. I think the Gambino crime family is really, really happy there, right? I don't know. Maybe they can give Eric Adams a preemptive pardon too, So it just, I still wish the DNC would have put those commercials on for the 1,600 pardons. I really wish we would start beating them up on this law and order thing, because the Republicans are just nothing but hooligans. And I was having a conversation with a lady last night, and she was talking about how they're saving all this money at Doge and how they're just, all this waste. And, here's what's really going on. They just say it's waste, and they stop funding a program, and they say they saved the money. And I told her straight out, I said, you know what? I'm cool with it. Just go ahead. Cut them all. Cut them all. And in 4 years, when we get the White House back, I say we just cut the Defense Department. Because if you can cut a program that has already been lawfully funded by Congress, okay, that's basically, line item veto, right? You can go ahead and pick and choose. I say in 4 years, we go after the Defense Department. Just end it. Sorry. Let's see what kind of uproar we get then, because they're 1/6 of the budget, and they're going to get an increase this year. The Republicans they just got their budget out of committee. We haven't seen the final numbers because they're still arguing about the debt ceiling, but you know what? That day's coming. We're 30 days away. I understand there's some leeway in that with procedural moves and things like that. But they're going to need the Democrats to lift the debt ceiling. And all I'm going to say is middle finger you. Middle finger you. Talking about middle finger, let's get down to the beautiful state of Texas. Yeah, Greg Abbott. Greg Abbott. Are they going to term limit this guy out? Guy in the wheelchair who says we all got to be independent. The guy who's been helped by all these handicap policies. Yeah. When it's other people, it's DEI. When it's you, it's just, the right thing to do. So Greg Abbott is an incomp on an incomp. He's also an a-hole. So in 2021, there was a huge power outage in the state of Texas. Now, there's 3 electrical grids in the United States. There's one for the West Coast, There's one for the central or the Midwest and the East Coast, and then there's Texas. You know, Texas does everything bigger and better, supposedly. So in February of 2021, they had a cold snap because of climate change that they never anticipated. Wow, I thought it only got warmer. No, it's climate change. It can get colder and warmer. Oops. Sorry, I guess you didn't look at that in the cheat notes, right? On 12/21. So they had to shut down the electrical grid. And most people in this audience are probably going to remember that's when Ted Cruz, when people had no power in their house throughout the state of Texas, decided he was going to go to Cancun for a couple days. And he got there, and then all of a sudden the backlash was so crazy because they had pictures of him in the airport going to Cancun, he had to come back. And he said, I was just trying to be the Disneyland dad and be good for my kids. Yeah, right. Let's see. You can be in a place which is 30 degrees and people are dying, or you can go to Cancun, which is 85. Yeah, wonder which one I'd pick. But I'm not stupid like Ted Cruz, right? So after this debacle, and make no mistake, 700 people in Texas died because of the power outages during that cold snap and the lack of power. 700 people, right? What? I thought we were the party of life. Well, unless your electricity goes out, then you're on the street, right? Good luck there, right? So Greg Abbott came out and said the power would never go out after that. It would never, ever happen. Well, funny thing happened on the way to the forum. A year later, the power went back out. And then he said, well, you know, we can't foresee anomalies that happen with the environment and different integrations of our system. Blah, 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 blah. Well, this week the power went out again. It's the fourth time since 2021 there's been significant power outages in the state of Texas. And I guess my question is, you know, people have died. Why is Greg Abbott not fixing this? Oh, wait. Politico reports that in the last election cycle, Greg Abbott got $4.6 million in donations from the electric companies. Gee, I doubt it. It's probably coincidence, isn't it? Let's see. He doesn't fix the electrical grid. He keeps the same electrical companies and he gets $4.6 million. Yeah, you know what? It's Biden's fault. All right. Greg Abbott. God, you know, he reminds me of the guy from X-Men, you know, Dr. Xavier. Except this dude, instead of being smart and having power like Dr. Xavier, this guy is retarded and stupid. I mean, he is stupid on stupid, and yet people follow him. He is like, I wonder who's stupider, him or Trump? Probably, wow, God, that's a tough one. That's, I'm going to have to get back to you. I'm going to have to think about that tonight. All right. Other odd notes in the news today. RFK was confirmed as health secretary. $1 trillion budget. And after that, smallpox, polio, and measles all went to the bar and had a celebration because, hey, we're coming back. Yeah, don't you worry. That anti-vax stuff didn't happen. CBS released a poll, said 66% of the people said that Trump isn't doing enough to lower prices, and half of that polling was done with Republicans. I thought he was going to reduce those prices on day one. Don't worry, we're going to have Monday, we're going to have the market update. We'll see where we're at. Yeah, I got a little spoiler alert for the weekend. It's not going good for the eggs. This is a really interesting story. This is kind of out of my own personal interest. So I'm sure everybody out there knows about Boeing. And they want to get into the space business. Now, Boeing used to be the platinum name in aeronautics. And then they merged with McDonnell Douglas, and McDonnell Douglas was a defense contractor, and all they were interested in was cutting. Not worried about quality. Wait, sounds like Trump these days. But what happened is that culture infected Boeing, and then they started to suffer a lot of quality problems. I love In-N-Out. And so they had a jet. It was called the 737 MAX. And there was a lot of problems in the design, the engineering. And I'm not going to get into all of that, but they tried to cut a lot of corners, especially with flight training for the pilots. And 2 of the jets went down. And a lot of people died. They were in other countries. They came back and they caught a little heat, but Congress kind of let them scoot through it. And honestly, they really were kind of scooting through it until last year when a door fell off on a flight out of Portland. And I swear to you, more people freaked out about the door coming off on the plane than the 2 plane crashes 6 years ago, which sights and wonders, right? So Boeing decides, well, we're going to take all this expertise / incompetence, and we're going to go into space. We're going to challenge SpaceX. Now, remember, SpaceX is the largest private contractor that the government has. There's money on money there. And everybody, Jeff Bezos, Boeing, they all want to get into it because there's some easy money out there, right? So they got this thing called the Starliner, and they launched one. Let's get the exact date. I don't want to lie to you. You know that. I would never lie. It was on June 5th. It left. And the thing was, it was supposed to go up, orbit the Earth, and come back down. The flight was supposed to be so short that one of the 2 astronauts didn't even bring their suitcase. They brought some extra equipment because there's a payload limit, right? You can only put so many pounds in there. So they said, I'm just going to be up there for 5 days or whatever. It was 4 or 5 days. And we're only going to be up there. It's a quick turnaround. It's like going to Vegas and coming back to LA, right? And then all of a sudden they got up there and, oh my God, we got a little problem with some thrusters and we got some problem with some helium leaks. And, we're not going to be able to bring you back to Earth. You're going to have to head up to the space station. Now, this is June 5th, right? So they drop him at the space station and they remote bring the craft back with nobody in it, right? That was on September 7th. Now listen to this crazy thing. You can't even make this up. Because the aircraft or the spaceship, let's call it the spaceship, went into outer space and came back. Forget all the incompetence, forget all the flaws. It actually got certified as a space-worthy craft. Now, they didn't bring the astronauts back with it. They left them at the space station. It's like leaving them in a rest stop in Barstow, right? Sorry, good luck, fend for yourself. Oh, there's some scorpions over there. Maybe you can eat them. Because they didn't want the publicity if it blew up and these 2 brave astronauts died, right? So and the reason I'm bringing this up is because the astronauts, tell me this isn't being prompted by Boeing, went on CNN this week with Anderson Cooper and said, no, we're not stranded. We're just having a good time up here. We're playing Yahtzee, we're playing Monopoly, whatever. This comes in response to the Monday press conference with Elon Musk and Trump, where they said Joe Biden basically left them hanging up there. Didn't do anything. Elon Musk obviously has been trying to get SpaceX to go up there and bring them back. I mean, think about the publicity. Boeing sent you up there, but we got you back. Let's call it what it is. It's all about the money for the guy, right? So they got up there and they're talking to Anderson Cooper and they're trying to make it out. I watched the interview and they're trying to make it out like they're just having a good old time up here and it's no big deal. And if there's a UAP or a UFO that comes by, maybe we can hitch a ride. But until then, we're just going to ride it out. They were supposed to be up there for 1 week. This is June. We are now coming to the end of February and we still don't know when they're coming back. I mean, I don't want to get too vulgar here, but you didn't take any. One of those 2 didn't take any clothes up there. Left their suitcase down there. How does that work? I mean, hello, Commando. I mean, what are we doing there? I don't even understand. I mean, maybe they got washing machines on the on the space station, but I'm not sure. Oh, the space station that's run by the Russians. There we go. Next, we got another great bit of news. Trump announced that the 25% on steel tariffs will go into effect at the beginning of March. You know, he talks a lot of stuff. Doesn't always come to fruition. Thank God. But how is this going to affect cars? How is this going to affect construction, home building? How about the cans we use for our beverages? You know, there's a lot of things going on. I don't, for the life of me, understand how the Republicans think that these tariffs aren't going to be paid for by the American citizens. I just don't get it. I mean, everything we have, when there's a service disruption in any industry or there's added costs, they don't absorb them anymore. They just, sorry. Consumers paying it. Do you remember COVID when there was no toilet paper? Hey, okay. Our logistics chain was broke. Okay, now it's double. Well, you want it. That's what you're going to pay. 90% of our steel comes from foreign countries. Now, it comes in here and we make it into other things sometimes, right? We make it into cans. We make it into, some cars. Most cars aren't built here. But, you get the idea. Construction for buildings, high rises. That steel comes in here and then it is manufactured and fabricated into what we need to build these kind of things. Well, if it goes up 25%, the whole building's going up 25%. Who do you think is paying for that? I heard the other day, somebody was telling me, well, when these tariffs come through, we're not going to have to pay taxes. Yeah, you're not, because nobody's going to have a job. We're all going to be unemployed. We're going to have some big homeless encampment out there in the middle of Oklahoma. Bring the weed, I'll bring the whiskey. Okay, let's go. Another interesting thing we got here is on the RFK thing, Mitch McConnell, for the third time, was the only Republican senator to vote against a Trump nominee for a cabinet post. Trump's comment afterwards, Mitch led the Republican Party to hell. I made him drop out of the leadership position. And I wonder, and we're never going to get the truth, because it was a transactional relationship between Trump and McConnell in 2016. McConnell wanted to reform and remake the judiciary with overwhelming Republican appointees to federal judgeships. Trump needed somebody who understood the levers of power in Washington. He was a newbie to it, and they both used each other, right? But I wonder, Mitch McConnell had a chance to get rid of Donald Trump. And to me, that's going to be his legacy. And after January 6th, the Senate, which literally takes a month to figure out how to turn on a light switch, that's how slow they move, unless they're going to steal a Supreme Court, nominee. Within 2 weeks, I think it was a week. Actually, it was like a week. It was like the 13th or 14th of January. They had brought articles of impeachment. And Mitch McConnell was the leader of the Republicans. Now, to impeach somebody, you need a 2/3 majority. You need 67 senators in the 100-seat Senate, right? I believe the Democrats at that moment had 50 or 51 senators. So they needed about 16 or 17. And Mitch McConnell basically told everybody, you can do what you want, but everybody over there in the Republican thing was scared, right? They were just scared on scared. So Mitch McConnell went to the floor of the Senate, and I remember this like it was yesterday. He goes, you know what? I'm not going to vote to impeach, but there will be criminal and legal repercussions for what he did. Well, there never was, because, spoiler alert, we had Merrick Garland, who is literally the most feckless, ineffective, terrible Democratic AG we've ever had. Hey, they had a riot on January 6th. Let's wait 2 years to start prosecuting people. Oh my God. You know what? He might be Greg Abbott's half-brother. And I don't know which one of those two is the bastard. But trust me, whoever you pick, you're right. All right. Finally, I'm still thinking back to what my niece went through and how 50% of the women who believed in pro-choice voted for Trump. And the numbers seem to indicate most of those came from states that have abortion protections, reproductive right protections. And it's like I said, I think on the first podcast, we got to fight for everybody. We can't be selfish. We can't be like them. They only think of themselves. We have to be here and think about those who are lesser. And that really is what embodies the progressive and the democratic movement, is like Jesus said, what you do for the least of my brothers, you do for me. And the Republicans are the exact opposite. They tell each other they're doing great, but they're cutting things. They're cutting things where people are going hungry tonight because of Republican policies. People are not getting health care because of Republican policies. Don't tell me it's about the goddamn money, because it's not. Because you're going to put all that money that they supposedly save is going to go into the military. That's where it's going. Think about this. They say they've cut $3 billion, and all they've done, they have not cut any of it. All they have done is stop funding programs that were lawfully funded. We've went over this time and time again, right? They're not cutting. And in a month, we're going to find out. Congress can go ahead and put it forward the budget, and let's see what happens. Personally, just destroy it all. Go ahead. Let's see. Let's see what people really want. Let's see. When it comes to their door, then we're going to find out. You know what I mean? All right. Well, I knocked on there, and the lights went out. All right. If you could, please kindly hit the subscribe and like button. Leave your comments. I love you all, and have a good weekend.